one principle is that you have to be referable. If you want people to talk about you to others, you have to earn that right. You have to be remarkable, which means worthy of remark. That's a principle. Protect their relationship. So you may want to get introduced. That's your principle, but your client or your center of influence wants to protect his or her relationship. And so we have to find out where those two principles can meet. So I always work on the level of principles, and then I get strategic and then very tactical. My last book, The Language of Referrals, is all about the exact words to say, what to say. And so that's very tactical. So I like to work on all levels, and it tends to be motivational in the sense that people walk away with lots of notes and lots of things they can do.
Welcome to Sterling Insights, Stand Out and Supercharge Your Assets, the go-to podcast for financial advisors aiming to grow their assets under management, stand out in a crowded market, and retain assets nearly forever. Are you advising high net worth clients who own appreciated capital assets? Do you want to help them sell without losing a quarter, a third, or even more of their hard-earned profits to capital gains taxes? Then this podcast is tailored for you. Each episode brings you the latest strategies and expert advice from leading financial advisors, seasoned attorneys, and experienced CPAs. Learn how to maximize your clients' wealth, minimize their taxes, and supercharge your advisory practice with actionable insights. Join us on Sterling Insights, Stand Out and Supercharge Your Assets, where you'll gain the knowledge and tools to set yourself apart and achieve unparalleled success in wealth management. Subscribe now and empower your practice for a brighter, more prosperous future. Welcome to Sterling Insights, Stand Out and Supercharge Your Assets. I'm your host, Roger Silk, and today we are joined by the famous Bill Cates. Bill is a high-energy speaker who motivates by sharing proven ideas and strategies that work. Bill has helped over 20,000 small business owners and salespeople build thriving referral-based businesses. Bill has also worked with large companies to help them increase sales and eliminate hundreds of thousands or more in marketing expenses. Bill is the author of 3 popular books on referrals, and he's the president of Referral Coach International and the founder of Referral Coach Academy. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Hey, my pleasure. Thank you so much.
How did you get started as the referral coach?
That's a good question. First of all, let's clear the air here. You know, you said the famous Bill Cates. They're thinking Bill Gates. So I did miss it. I missed it by a letter. So actually, essentially what was happening, I had a book publishing company. I had 2, and I sold them. One I sold for a pretty nice sum of money. It was great. The other one I sold to get out of a bad partnership and let him absorb the rest of the debt or assume the debt. So when someone tells you they sold a business, yeah, maybe they made some money, maybe they didn't. I experienced both. But I was looking for the next thing to do. And I really loved teaching. And I had a couple of friends say, you know, you should be a speaker, consultant. You'd be good at that. I go, okay, well, I'll give it a try. So I started playing around with that. And I was looking for more of a niche, more of a specialty. And as a lot of folks listening to this know, the power of that focus that comes from that. And so I was listening to some audio tapes back then when we had tapes. And this guy was talking about referrals. And I was thinking, yeah, I like that, but I'd say it this way and I'd do it that way. And within about a year's time, I had written my first book called Unlimited Referrals, which is no longer in print. And that's really how I got into the referral space, if you will. Within about a year's time, I was fully dedicated to financial services, financial advisors, insurance professionals, et cetera. And so I'm kind of what they call double niched. My topic expertise is relationship marketing and referrals. And my target market, if you will, is financial services.
And financial services taken broadly, it's insurance, it's financial advisors. Well, let me ask you, you tell me who it is. It's
even banking. I mean, earlier this week, before this was recorded, I did a program for a large bank, and the essence of this program, they had business bankers, commercial bankers, financial advisors, and private wealth advisors. And we got them all in the room, and we helped with the internal referrals. The bank in all the divisions was sitting on a gold mine of opportunities of introductions that weren't taking place. So yeah, I started out mostly with insurance professionals, and did a lot with the wirehouses, and then independents and banks, and even a little bit of mortgage and business benefit brokers. So I've really trust officers, wealth managers. I've seen it all over the last 30 years.
And so it sounds like you're the person who benefits from what you do is what the insurance people call producers, what they used to be called the customer's man. I'm aging, I'm dating myself, but like, it's the guy who's dealing with the client or woman. That's who you're.
Yes. Yeah. Really on three levels I work, but certainly the individual for sure. And then a lot of firms bring me in to work, whether it's regional or national, to speak at events. We have large training programs within some firms where they're using my video training. But it usually starts with an individual advisor or professional looking to help themselves, and then they introduce me to other people in the organization. So yeah, sometimes one-to-one, sometimes one-to-many.
Okay, so it sounds like you do public speaking to large groups, and that
Yep.
would that be motivational type speaking, or is that educational, or sometimes?
Well, we can ask the audience whether they think it's motivational. I certainly don't bill myself as a motivational speaker. I do believe that ideas, especially very implementable ideas, can be motivating. Yeah, I have some stories, I have some fun, but it's not a pure inspirational, motivational, rah rah kind of talk. I come with a lot of ideas. I like to deal on really three levels. I like to deal on the level of principles, the very high level. When it comes to relationship marketing and referrals more specifically, and creating reputations in a target market more specifically, there are certain principles that permeate, that never change. They're always there. So I'll give you an example. One principle is that you have to be referable. If you want people to talk about you to others, you have to earn that right. You have to be remarkable, which means worthy of remark. That's a principle. Protect their relationship. So you may want to get introduced. That's your principle, but your client or your center of influence wants to protect his or her relationship. And so we have to find out where those two principles can meet. So I always work on the level of principles, and then I get strategic and then very tactical. My last book, The Language of Referrals, is all about the exact words to say, what to say. And so that's very tactical. So I like to work on all levels, and it tends to be motivational in the sense that people walk away with lots of notes and lots of things they can do.
And that would be the sort of the public speaking, and that is that conceptually different from like a training? You do training?
Yeah, I suppose so. Usually a main stage, main platform, general session, keynote, a lot of different words to say almost the same thing, will be somewhat interactive, but certainly not like a workshop or a training.
Right.
Depending on the amount of time I have, I'm definitely going to get people engaged with each other and with me. But a workshop or a training is going to be different because there's a little bit of practice involved. If you want to actually learn a new skill, if you will, then you just can't get it intellectually. You have to do it. So there's some doing involved. And I have everything on video, which is my Kate's Academy for Relationship Marketing. So a lot of the work I do with individuals, coaching individuals, as well as the firms, the video program comes into play. So a lot of times they'll go through the videos, and then we'll coach and we'll work. Sometimes they'll go through the videos and I'll do an in-person session to really drive home the points. So it's a mixture, usually a virtual, in-person, and video, depending on what we're trying to accomplish. I have people that come to me who say, well, Bill, we need to get more referrals. We're sitting on a gold mine of opportunity. Our net promoter scores are great. I go, great. We'd love you to do a virtual presentation or do a general session. I go, great. That's good. Now that'll expose people to ideas, and we'll definitely move the needle for some people. We will have anecdotal evidence that we've produced some results. But tell me, are you looking for more of a culture change where this permeates throughout the culture? And they'll usually say, yeah, tell me more about that. And that's what will often lead to a larger engagement, but it can start with a speech, certainly.
What if someone's listening to this and wondering if there's a fit? What is one, or if you have several, ideal clients look like, so that if somebody's listening, they can listen to you and say, oh, this is, and then they'll know, oh, that's sort of like me, or that's not so much like me.
Well, sure. A financial professional in a growth mode, it would be obvious. And their growth mode could be just for themselves. It could be for a larger team. So some people bring me in to work with them, but also maybe junior advisors or other people they're hoping to create opportunities. Sometimes the rainmaker is tired of being the rainmaker and they need other people to start the drizzle going. And so really anyone in a growth mode. And also because I talk about relationship marketing, it's someone who understands the power and the value of the relationship side of this. I can get into the digital side. I've been involved with marketing for a long time, and I know all the principles, and I help with that side a little bit. But the emphasis is going to be on the introductions, the gold mine that people are usually sitting on there, forming relationships with centers of influence, anything more relationship oriented. So someone has an inclination towards that is someone I can usually help. And we know that in financial services, how do most people want to meet their advisor or planner? Well, it's through an introduction from someone they already trust. So it's people who want to build a business based on how people want to meet them. And it's usually not so much the volume play, it's more quality. I mean, we want more, but we want more of the right folks. I use the term right fit client. So someone who's looking for that as well.
So something that I hear from financial advisors, particularly, is that they might know a lot of, call them COIs, but that they don't get referrals from those COIs.
Right.
And I assume that's something that comes up very frequently for you, and that you have tools to address.
Oh yeah, without question. So let's go to that principle is you have to be referable. That's quite often the missing component in that the advisor hasn't done what he or she needs to do to get to that level of trust where that COI is willing. So you have to be referable. They also have to know how to recognize someone who's a good fit for you and what's going on in their life, money in motion, life events, et cetera, that might make them a candidate for seeking advisory services. And then you also have to make sure you talk about the connection. What does that connection look like? And that's where it falls apart sometimes. They have accountants or attorneys. They'll give 3 names and numbers out, or they'll say, maybe you should talk to this person, but there's no connection made. And because of that, the relationship doesn't work. So yeah, it's finding the right folks who are open to this. So that's kind of the numbers game. But then it's building the relationship where it becomes very fruitful and very productive.
So if somebody has that situation,
Mm-hmm.
they could probably read your books and kind of get the concept, right?
Yeah.
Because you're not hiding it, right? You're putting it right out there. But then people still come to you.
Yes.
What additional, or they're not just looking for the knowledge, they're looking for something additional that they didn't get from reading the book or just
Sure.
listening to you.
Yeah, they're looking to apply the knowledge. They're looking to turn that potential energy, which is knowledge, into kinetic energy, which is action and results. And look, there are some people that do read my book and say, hey, I did this and it worked and I appreciate it and thank you. I had a guy call me for some coaching. He had read my last book, The Language of Referrals, 3 times. He says, look, I know your stuff. I got it. But I need to run it by someone. I need to run the language. Because my situation, is different than other people's situations. So it's the customization and the application of the ideas for the person's specific situation. And there's a lot of nuance to this, right? In terms of talking about introductions and getting introduced and with centers of influence and all of that, there's a lot of nuance. So that's hard to, you can't cover all of that in any kind of an asset, a book or an audio. So that's where the back and forth exchange takes place. And then sometimes we figure it out together. What is the right thing to say? What is the right next move? Because context is king. And you got the principles, you got the strategies, you got the tactics, but the context will dictate how those tactics get implemented. So that's why people will come to me for coaching, for instance, or that's what we might do in an in-person session where we can get into some conversation that doesn't happen through a book.
If someone comes to you for coaching, Bill, what does a typical engagement look like? Or maybe there isn't one.
Well, it's not all over the place. So, I teach, you've heard me use the phrase relationship marketing. So I have three main strategies that go within that category or that topic of relationship marketing. The first one is relevance. I wrote a book called Radical Relevance. And so how do we have relevant messaging? Messaging, it's really about our marketing message in a way that will attract people to us, repel the ones we don't want to attract, but having strategic relevance, having tactical relevance. So that's one area. Another area is reputation, which is targeting a niche market, having a very clear target market, and then building a reputation within that market so you start to draw people to you. Most financial professionals get taught how to prospect, but very few get taught how to actually market to draw people to you. Or so when you do prospect, you're going to have a warmer market to go after. And then the third is the referrals, which I've been doing forever, and how to multiply your best clients and how to get introduced. Any one of those strategies will produce some nice results. I like to say when you put all three together, you're going to create exponential growth. So I do coaching programs where I'll do any one of those three. I'll help folks just get clear on their target market and how to start to work it better, how to choose the target market. Usually it's right in front of them. And I'm telling you, I can't tell you how many times, Roger, that when someone just makes that decision to go after the market they know they probably should, it just opens up so many doors and so many opportunities. I had a coaching call earlier today before this where this advisor decides he wants to work with salespeople and rainmakers. That's what he loves doing. He loves working with those people. And as soon as he made that decision and started to talk to some of his clients about that, man, just the floodgates open. They go, oh, I know some people I can introduce you to, right? So sometimes we'll just work on one, and then with some coaching clients, we'll work on all three together. That's my exponential growth program because that's putting all three together, and that's a longer term relationship. I am not a business coach in the sense of I'll work with you forever. I like to see myself more as the hitting coach, the batting coach. You want to grow in a certain direction. Yeah, bring me in. I'll help you for a while. I'll give you the tools, and then we'll stay in touch. I built a lot of friendships with my coaching clients where I just stay in touch and continue to help, off the books just because it's fun to do. So that's the essence of what it would look like.
Does anyone engage you just for the first one, just to help identify their target market?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I've done that. I've done it just for messaging. Yeah, it absolutely. So, and sometimes one will lead to another, and then I'll just I'll credit them for what they've already invested into a larger program. But yeah, some people will say I want to work on this, and then once they start working on, it, they go, okay, this is good. What's the next step? What's phase two? That's fairly common.
What's the range of how long it takes somebody, if we're just looking at identifying a target market? Like some people probably already come to you, they already know it. And some people say, I've been doing this for however long, and I've basically been dealing with all comers. If somebody is in that latter category and they really haven't focused on it before, what should they expect? How long to get that
Yeah.
where they're all really happy with what they decide?
Yeah. So my coaching relationships tend to be 2 to 4 months, generally speaking. Sometimes they go a little faster because you got somebody who's really eager. They're going to implement. We're going to talk every week for maybe 4 or 6 weeks. Most of the relationships last a little longer because what happens is they learn the core, the essence of my process through the video and through some calls, and then they want to start implementing, and they want to have a little time to implement and have some experience, some results or not results, as the case may be. And then we talk about that. So that usually takes a little time for that to happen. Most people start producing results within the first several weeks, but to complete the program, depending on the scope of the program, 2 to 4, occasionally a little longer. Somebody goes on vacation or somebody wants a month to just do it for a while and then get back to me. But I always have people interacting in between our coaching calls too. There's always email exchanges, sometimes real quick calls. That's the rough time frame.
Yeah, standard coaching arrangement would be a call. How long? How often?
Well, yeah. So usually we're using my video training as part of it. So they're going to watch some videos and then we'll get on a call. The first few calls are almost always an hour because there's a lot to talk about and there's a lot to immerse in. After that, we start usually having 30 to 45-minute calls, generally speaking. Like a call I did earlier today was a 45-minute call. Sometimes we'll schedule an hour, but if we don't go an hour, we just bank the time for later. It's 30 to 60 minutes. And then if I had to say, typically it would be every 2 weeks. And that really does vary. It varies on everybody's schedule and what we're trying to accomplish.
And so would that be for just the identifying the ideal client, or that would be for that plus, or it depends on the client?
Well, yeah, it depends on the client. It really does. So if it's just identifying the ideal client, working up a persona, working through that a little bit, wordsmithing a little bit, getting real clear. I mean, we can accomplish that in a month, depending on how often we're able to talk. So some folks, some advisors, obviously very busy. They've got a lot going on, and so they can't do it every week. So then it takes a little bit longer because of that. There are some coaches and some programs where they say, look, we're going to meet every Monday at 10 o'clock or whatever. And you fit into that formula. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's not what works for me and what I teach. I want people to have time to implement. I don't want to just dump knowledge on them. And so we want them to implement and have experience, produce a result, learn from that, not produce a result, learn from that. That'll usually take a little longer than just having a regimented every week for 6 weeks or every week for 8 weeks or whatever.
Uh-huh. Is your coaching is done personally by you?
Yes.
And then
Yes.
do you have capacity to take on additional coaching clients now?
I take on maybe 2 or 3 new clients every month. So a couple will fall off over time. And then I'll bring in a couple new ones. So yeah, it's rare that someone has to wait very long for my availability. Sometimes might have to wait a few weeks to a month for my availability, but not usually. Usually I'm pretty available. And then, there's some people that will just go through my academy and just use the videos and occasionally ask me a question with an email. Some of those folks will say, okay, this is great. I'm learning everything, but I need to start implementing better. And then we upgrade to a coaching relationship. Now they've already been through all the content. Now it's pure implementation, pure coaching. Sometimes there's that goal setting and a little bit of accountability or support, right? What are you going to do between now and the next call to make sure that action actually takes place? I do. And it's all anecdotal because everyone's different. Like I said, most people start to see results within the first couple of weeks. I'll give you an example, though, of something that just happened. I did an in-person session for a small group, small RIA. So first of all, we have this thing scheduled, right? And so one of the guys, his name is Andy, had a client on the phone that morning before our session, said, yeah, this afternoon we're going to this training. This guy's going to teach us how to get more referrals. And the client says, oh, I want to introduce you to my sister. Referrals. Yeah, I can teach, So it's like just entering the word referrals into the conversation turned into a new client. And I just learned he's secured a new client in about a week's time. But then I got a call yesterday. I was in the airport from the head of that RIA, the founder of that RIA, said, Bill, I was in a meeting with a client, a retired admiral, and I had 2 of my associates with me, and I used your language almost verbatim. You would have been proud of me. And she's introducing me to 2 more admirals who had just retired and said, there's a bunch of others I can introduce you to. And he said, my colleagues, my other associates were like, they're almost a mouth agape, like, I used what you taught and it actually produced results right away. So with one of my coaching clients the other day, I said, all right, his name is John. I said, John, look, you get it. You understand it. You know what to do. Now it's time to really start engaging here. Are you ready to start engaging? Because there are some specific things you need to start doing if you want to get an ROI from this relationship. He says, yeah, I'm ready. So sometimes I have to nudge people into that. Some gung-ho, just do it right away. Some there's a little bit of hand holding and nudging. Because look, when people come to me, especially around the referral stuff, here's what I hear, Roger. I hear, I don't want to look like the creepy referral guy, cheesy referral guy, or sleazy referral guy. Those are the 3 that I hear. And so there's that reluctance to be appropriately proactive. And so sometimes we have to work up. We work up with value discussion, we work up with promoting and encouraging referrals and introductions. And then we get into the asking. So everybody's a little bit different, but virtually every one of my coaching clients can attest to the increase in overall revenue and or very specific clients that they wouldn't have received had they not worked with me.
I know we only have limited time here. What else would you like the audience to hear or know that I haven't had a chance to ask you about, or you haven't had a chance to talk about yet?
Yeah. So here's the overarching principle or thought that I want people to think about, and that's a big part of what I do. Actually, there's two. One is building a business based on how people want to meet you. That's kind of a principle involved, and that involves in having the right messaging. It has involved in having a target market, if that makes sense for you. It's referrals, multiplying your best clients. So that's an overarching theme of everything I teach. And the other is that your value is worth sharing. Truly understanding and believing that your value is worth sharing, because if you want to be proactive through introductions, if you want to be proactive through spreading a marketing message, you have to truly believe and embrace the fact that your value is worth sharing. And there are some folks that I think aren't quite sure about that because they haven't fully articulated it. And so that's a big aha for a lot of people, believe it or not. I mean, I know some people listening go, yeah, my value is worth sharing. I know it is. And others, it's something we work on a little bit. So yeah, I mean, look, I have a guide called Exponential Growth Guide, exponentialgrowthguide.com. That's a good, entrance into my world and the 3 R's of relationship marketing. And, shoot me a message. I would love to talk.
Well, you anticipated my next question.
Sorry. I guess that's the marketer in me.
I guess so, yeah. So I'm just going to ask you. So in case somebody wasn't paying attention, then they want to know how to get a hold of you, Bill. What are the best ways to get a hold of you?
All right. Referralcoach.com. Now, here's a great place. Referralcoach.com/resources. That's our resources page. A colleague of mine, Rory Vaden, has an expression that I love and I live by. He says, save your best for first. And that's my resources page. So referralcoach.com/resources, lots of tools, all free but valuable. And then there's exponentialgrowthguide.com, and my email's all over the place. So you can shoot, we do a complimentary strategy session.
And if people want to read your books, the titles of the books that are in print and available are?
Yeah. So my latest one is a Language of Referrals, the Language of Referrals. And then one before that was Radical Relevance, which is how we talk about our value. And the one before that was Beyond Referrals. So Beyond Referrals, Radical Relevance, and Language of Referrals are probably the three big ones at this point.
Okay. And in case somebody's driving, your website one more time?
Yes. Thank you. Referralcoach.com. Referralcoach.com. Yes, sir.
Super. Thank you so much, Bill.
Hey, thank you. It's rare that I get a chance to, talk about what I do in this way. So I appreciate the opportunity, Roger. Thank you.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Sterling Insights, Stand Out and Supercharge Your Assets, where we provide the info you need from successful leading financial advisors, lawyers, and CPAs. Your hosts, Roger and Catherine Silk, invite you to learn more about Sterling Foundation Management by visiting sterlingfoundations.com.